Hello and welcome. I'm Dr. Irene Stein, and I will be the host for this research symposium session titled CEO Simulation Success, presented by Shatera Allen. We are excited that you have joined us today to hear Shatera's presentation. The chat window will be open during the session, so please feel free to participate or ask questions. Shatera will address chat questions during the last 5 minutes of the presentations. Now I would like to introduce Shatera Allen, the wearer of many hats, wife, mom, employee, entrepreneur, and student. Shatera decided to earn her MBA as the first step to realizing her dream of being a college professor. Going back to school 20 years after earning her bachelor's degree, Shatera looks forward to graduating with her MBA in July when she completes her last class and looks forward to life's next adventure. This presentation is taken from her work in her MBA capstone. Shatera?
Hello, everyone.
Can you share your screen?
Yes. How are we all doing? I know you can't speak, but I'll just say hello and welcome, and thank you for joining the CEO Simulation Success. So as Dr. Stein explained, I will be walking through just a few highlights from my capstone class, some things that I thought were quite beneficial, and during this research symposium, I thought I would share with you. So before I get started, I wanted to ask the question, what are some key elements to sound decision making? And as you ponder that for a second, you may start to think, oh, well, I may do these steps, or I may go through this process each time. But I'll share with you from my process, I always look for the evidence-based data. I always look for accurate reporting. And I know it may be weird to see it on the screen, but there is a little bit of guesswork involved. You can call it guesswork or intuition. There is just a little bit of that in any decision that we make, because we never know what the true outcome is until after that decision is made. What are some of the learning objectives from today? Well, at the conclusion, I hope that I can help you be more confident in your ability to make sound strategic decisions, help you craft a fact-finding plan that can be applied across multiple disciplines, and then, of course, find peace in the unknowns, and, of course, trust your process. So let's get started. So this is what I look like every time there's a decision to be made. Usually the mountain, or how high it is, depends on the severity of the decision. If it's where I'm going to eat for lunch, then it's just a molehill. But if it's, say, a decision to go back to school, that mountain seems almost unclimbable. So how do you start your process? Do you have a certain process that you just deploy every single time, or are you like me? This is more like me. Research analysis paralysis. Google and Bing and research to ad nauseum, because I'm trying to go everywhere I can to find all of the data. I usually want to know what the outcomes are going to be before I even make the decision, to help me know if I'm going in the right or wrong direction. But I will tell you, no matter whether you have a succinct process or if you are just like me and losing your mind most of the time, I will tell you that the ingredients for sound decision making usually, once you calm down enough, are about the same. So what I'd like to do is take you through organizational leadership through our capstone class. And like many of you, when you start your first class, there's usually an introduction day and then 1 or 2 discussion questions and an assignment. However, this was my introduction to our capstone class. Talk about information overload. It was unlike any other course I had been in, and I was lost. I didn't understand what I was looking at. I didn't understand how to figure it all out. And I started to question, maybe I didn't grasp concepts early on that I'm supposed to be using now. It took a moment, but eventually I was able to begin my process. And this is my process: small, digestible bites. I categorize it into what I know, what I don't know, and where I can go for help. So for me, what I know, that usually is that evidence-based data. It's the quantitative data found through research. It's the facts, the figures, It's usually relying on previous coursework. So for me, during my capstone, going back and revisiting my supply chain management and my forecast modeling and finance concepts was key in order to refresh my mind on how to apply those learnings during my capstone class. So I'll give you a little bit of a look into it. So this is one of the data sets that we were given. And I'll tell you, it's always important anytime that you are trying to make sound decisions, you have to go from what I call this high level macro view to more of a micro view. What does a micro view look like? Well, what it means is I'm opening and expanding all of the information. I want to understand where the money was spent, how much was being spent, and over what time frame. And that's important because a lot of times you can have that historical data and that helps you in your current decision-making process. What it also does is it helps you know what information is actually out there so you can start asking some detailed questions. Without taking the expanded look, you may miss some things that may impact your decision-making later. So that's the evidence-based part, the data, right? So what about the reporting part? I call that what I don't know. So qualitative research to get intel about industry or competitors, new regulations that may impact how I make my decisions now and in the future, changes in customer demand and their behaviors, all of that information that you don't usually readily know. It's not information that you can look internally in your business or within yourself to find. So when I look at accurate reporting, I'm asking myself, where can I go to get reliable, factual information? Well, of course, all of us Google, Bing, whatever your favorite search engine is. We all do it. But I will tell you, over the course of being in my capstone class, I was able to find a good majority of the information about my competitors just from looking at what they put in their annual reports. And it's also important to look at what legislation is being passed or what rules or requirements are being levied on different industries, because that helps to navigate where you go and the decisions that you make. Now, while it is important that you look online, I will caution you, because when you go to Google, in your research, in your classes, research from Google can be kind of iffy. Like Wikipedia, you may have heard some of your professors say that's not the best source, but you've heard them use scholarly reviews. We've all heard that, right? So scholarly reviews are those reviews or those papers that have been vetted through a certain criteria where we say that is a viable, reliable source. So I would caution you, if you're going to research and you're going to go to your search engine, use that as the first step for helping you to find those reliable resources. So I will also tell you that a lot of times you can go online and you can actually find old annual reports and old regulations that may have changed or spoke of changes that are coming in the future. And again, that just helps you to find that accurate reporting, right? Because at the end of the day, we don't want to rely on any information that is old, outdated, or unreliable. So now that we've talked about evidence-based data and we've talked about where you can find your accurate reporting, let's talk about the fun one, guesswork. Where can I get help? Are there others in the field who can provide trustworthy advice? Are there mentors? Or in this particular example, I was acting as a CEO in my capstone class. So were there people who were in roles similar, maybe own their own business or within my professional walk, who were in charge of making these grand decisions that I could come to and ask, what do you think about this or that? Or of course, there are subject matter experts. So what's a subject matter expert? They are the ones, so for example, when I was struggling with understanding how many of the widgets I needed to purchase today in order to match what demand looked like it may be 2 months from now, I relied on one of my friends who has a business and she has to get raw goods today in order to make enough product to sell at an event that's coming up 2 months from now. So those are the subject matter experts that I'm speaking of. Of course, you can always pull from past experiences. What do I mean by that? You may not have had to make this decision on this day. However, you could have made a similar choice. Or you could say, if I don't know, does my past history on the way that I made my decisions, has that enabled me to be confident in the way I'm making the decision today? Right, wrong, or indifferent, whatever the outcome is, can I at least be at peace with how I'm going about the process? And then sometimes you just have to trust your gut. That's your intuition, that's the goosebumps, or when you're having your quiet time, maybe you take a walk and you breathe in the fresh air and all of a sudden you have an epiphany, whatever that might look like. And I would also caution you, it's okay to have your tribe. That's what I call them. So friends and friends of friends, people, did I tell you I did research ad nauseum? So I call a friend, who do you know that knows this? And they connect me with that person. And because I trust my friend, I then trust the person that they're sending me to. And there's always something to be said about your Yelp or your Amazons or your Better Business Bureau. Sometimes not every decision is, I don't know, a CEO level. Sometimes you just need to decide where you want to go to lunch. And I want a good lunch because I'm spending my money. So maybe I'll look at Yelp. Or maybe if I'm buying the widget, but I don't know who to buy the widget from, sometimes I look at customer reviews to make sure, is this the right widget? Because several different people sell it. So go with the best product. Or I may look at the Better Business Bureau because I may get the right advice. I may decide on the right widget. You would hate to miss the opportunity because you chose the wrong company. So in those instances, the Better Business Bureau may be another alternative where you say, you know what, if I have an option between A, B, and C of who to buy the thing from, then maybe I look at this resource in order to help me, guide me to that right one at the very end. So that's the guesswork part. I told you in the beginning, it wasn't going to be a long one, but it was going to be hopefully a valuable presentation, during which time I hope to have outlined a process for strategic decision-making, showcase a plan of action that can be replicated for consistent outcomes, no matter what discipline it is. And then, of course, help you to find some type of peace in the unknown by trusting your own instincts, your own intuition. That's my process. I tell you in every single one, no matter whether it's big or small, whether I am looking for lunch, looking for the widget, or in this case, trying to get through my MBA capstone, I will tell you every decision requires me to have some evidence-based data, some accurate reporting, and then a little bit of guesswork. I trust myself that no matter what the outcome is, I was strong in my approach, and I'll take it as a lesson learned and move forward. And for me, usually win, lose, or draw, it's always mission accomplished. So I'll pause there, leaves us with a little bit of time. What questions do we have?
Shatera, you are already a college professor. Wonderful, wonderful presentation. I hope you don't wait another 20 years to go for your doctorate. So there is, let's see, there was this question from Dr. Sundstrom. She says, very interesting, Shatera. You've obviously thought a great deal about this topic. What's the number one thing you have changed in your own decision-making process as a result of developing this understanding of the process?
Oh, that's such a good question. I'll tell you, it's the guesswork part, the trusting your instinct. I think that's the hardest thing when you want to get it right and you want the outcome to be the best possible. Sometimes you just, after you research and research and research, you have to be able to put the pieces together and then fill in the gaps where you don't have the data. And I think that's always hard when you're trying to do something accurate every time. It's okay to input that information in. And I think that's one of the biggest learnings for me. Trust my gut, win, lose, or draw, whether I got the outcome that I intended or I didn't, it's always going to be a learning, and just keep going.
I have someone who wanted you to share your contact information. If you could share your screen again and put that back up, that would be great.
There we go.
Well, how about give us a concrete example um, of of you know like
So
yesterday.
I'll,
Did
I'll
you
tell you,
use this decision making process yesterday?
um, I think we do the decision-making process every day, right? There's always something that we're deciding. I think for me, yesterday doesn't stand out as much as my decision to go back to school after 20 years of not being in school. That was one of the ones that I thought, I had to think long and hard which school to go to, how to pay for it, what career track do I want to go in? So what degree, what MBA plan would be most appropriate for me and where I saw myself long-term. So Dr. Stein, I think for me, the decision almost 18 months ago now to jump back in, not knowing how difficult the classes would be, never being a part of the online learning community, all of those things were for me the unknown. And there's no amount of research that you can go through to prepare yourself for what you will experience. But I think to the point that we talked about a little bit earlier, once I got confident in, okay, but I'm going. So whatever the experience is, I'm in for the ride. And so I started, my evidence base was which schools are going to be the best schools, which are going to give me the most flexibility, which has the programs that I want. From there, looking at reports, what do reviews say about those schools? What does my own company say about the schools that I'm choosing? Do they offer more or less support financially based on the school that I chose? And then that last part, that guesswork part for me was, okay, in my quiet time, can I do this? Can I commit 18 months to the unknown? What those papers might look like, all of that. And at the end, you see now I made that decision. I'm glad I did. But I think that's one of the decisions that I really had to use my own model to kind of calm myself down and determine whether I was going to go for it or not.
That's great. And did you share your screen? We're not seeing your contact information.
Oh, no, it says I'm sharing. Hold on one second. Let me go back. Can you guys see that?
Yep.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you. You talked about different types of data along the way, and we talked about it when we talked together. There's qualitative data, there's quantitative data, and you also talked about intuitive data. Could you think about, and different data is privileged in different contexts. Could you talk about when each of those types of data might be best used?
Absolutely. So when I first started hearing about qualitative and quantitative data, to be very transparent, I would always get lost. I didn't realize which was which, right? So I had to break it down into a way that I could kind of understand it myself. That way, every time I revisited that information, it made sense. So for me, the qualitative data and the quantitative data, they're separated out. Numbers, facts, figures, the hard information. That to me is the quantitative. That is, okay, there is no disputing that you have $10 right here in the bank. Like there is no disputing that. Or there is no disputing that when I go and I research this particular topic, that these are the facts. The qualitative data are the things that you can't necessarily go and readily research, meaning I don't know what the economy, case in point, how we are right now. There was no way for anyone to understand that the pandemic, that's qualitative. It's looking at data and then making assumptions or assessments based on that. So you hear now during the pandemic, people will say, we've been talking about us needing in the US needing to be prepared for this for X amount of years. But the reason why it's always a back and forth discussion is because it's not fact that tomorrow we're going to be in a pandemic. It's qualitative that I'm going off of the data and making this educated guess, if you will. But that kind of guesswork or assumption is different from intuitive. because intuitive, I still have the data in front of me and I'm making assumptions based on that data to get the qualitative. Intuitive is, I don't even have the data. I don't have anything specifically that I can say, this is why I chose this way. That's why I say it's your gut, because my gut could tell me to do one thing and yours could tell you to do something totally different. And would either one of us be wrong? No, we went off of, based on our experiences, based on the walk that we've had, we chose A versus B.
Isn't that so interesting? I decided to go to the grocery store yesterday. I go every 2 weeks. So this is the third time I've been since we've been quarantined. I'm old, so I have to be careful. But all three of those things came into account. So quantitatively, what do you think quantitatively I might have looked at in order to make the decision to go?
I would assume you look at how much do I have and how long can it last me?
There you go.
let me count the things. Do I have enough of the essentials that I can at least make complete meals for X amount of days? Now, for me, I think qualitative may be, but do I even like those meals? Like, I may have the essentials to make the meal. That's some quantitative, right? Qualitative is, but do I like? I don't want that. And I think, I'm not sure about you, but for us, we've gone to the grocery store, like you said, a couple of different times. We get all the food here, and then for whatever reason, like, now I'm thinking I'm craving. So it's kind of that, the qualitative, do I really want that thing? Or do I want something?
I did count how many pints of ice cream I had, and I was getting low. But I pay attention, to I live here in Colorado, to the numbers. So the numbers of cases that are in the area, and is it going up and is it going down? So that's quantitative. That's people, making numbers. I also listen qualitatively to, what does the governor say? What do the health experts say and everything? Some of that's, their experience. Some of that's based on their interpretation of the numbers. And then I used my own intuition, it's like, is this the day I go or should I wait another couple of days? That kind of.
I would agree. And we also heard some of the feedback on that qualitative part, them saying, we expect this to be the worst week when we see the peak, right? That's the qualitative. They don't know for sure. And it's only after we get through the week will we know that. And that it's almost like qualitative data will sometimes turn into the quantitative after the fact, right? But when you're heading in, it's all the research-based assumptions that you're making. I would agree with that.
Well, thank you so much, Shatera. I think, being in an MBA program and doing your capstone and doing simulations, it really gives you a chance, and now presenting to us gives us a chance to see how decisions are made using various types of data, and really bringing it home that, not only do CEOs need to do that, and they do, but all of us at all levels, our level, governor's level, at every level has to do that. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us. And thank you, all of you, for joining us in this session. The recordings of these presentations will be available in June to be accessed through the conference site. So thank you, everyone. We'll keep this open a little bit, but I think you can probably stop the recording now.